My name is Pastor Phil Wagoner. I'm authority on Greek and Hebrew. I've spent the last 34 years studying the language of Hebrew and Greek, and as it pertains to the Bible. And I've found some very interesting things, not only in the Bible, but also in my archaeological expeditions, of which I'm to begin with, we find the Hebrew words in the Bible. These two words, we find them quite often throughout the Bible in several different books, beginning with Genesis, very prominent in the book of Leviticus, and also then when we get into the New Testament, there's several times when it's mentioned in the New Testament, and that word is quackamus sticamus. Quackamus sticamus. It's a phrase that's very common there. And I've traced that back, and I've looked at exactly what it means, and so on and so forth. The first place that it shows up is actually in the book of Genesis, when it's talking about Noah, and of course we don't know who. It's only my Bible. Talking about Noah, and we know who Noah was. Noah, of course, was who built the ark and saved the world from the flood, and continued generations the way we know the generations. But there's some interesting things in the story of Noah, and that's one of the first places that this phrase quackamus sticamus shows up. And where it is the English translation for it is pitch. God told Noah to build his ark and to cover it with pitch. Well, in the original, it says God told Noah to build an ark and cover it with quackamus sticamus. And so I began to do some more study on that, and I find out that quackamus sticamus is where we get our word quack from. And of course, that's translated to the word duck in English. Quack would be the Hebrew, and actually it's pronounced quack, like that. And then the Hebrew, and then when you go to English, it's duck. And then sticamus, it's really interesting where sticamus comes from. We get a lot of different phrases from sticamus. One of the key ones being glue, and of course where glue goes, which would be on the back of tape. So actually, what I have hypothesized is that God told Noah to cover the ark with duct tape. Now, I know that might be a little strange to some of you, but I also have some physical proof to that. I was on an expedition to the mountains of Colorado. Now, I know the Bible talks about that the ark landed in some mountain over in some other country, but we know that God loves America. And so it just makes sense that the ark would have landed in the United States. I mean, there are all kinds of songs written in English about how God loves America. There's all kinds of emblems and things like that. For instance, the American flag and all these different things. So if God's not behind that, then why are these songs out there? Why are these emblems out there? Why did God make eagles if the ark didn't land in the United States? So my hypothesis is that the ark landed in the United States. I was hiking in the mountains and excavating in the mountains of Colorado, quite high one time, and I came across this piece of wood. And I looked at this, and we've done our own carbon testing on it. I didn't send it away, of course, because I didn't want it to be stolen or messed with. So I did my own carbon testing with it. I built a carbon testing machine and did my own carbon testing, and I found out that this piece of wood is probably 4,000 to 5,000 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it's covered, as you can see, it's covered with duct tape. I believe this is the outside of the ark, or one of the boards, of course, that was on the outside of the ark. And you say, well, that's really stretching things, Pastor Phil, just to come up with that just because you found a 4,000-year-old board with duct tape on it. However, I want you to see what is on the back of it. Can you see that? Can you see what that says? Noah was here. Now, my friends, that's not coincidental. Duct tape had a prominent part to play in the Bible and in our salvation. The next place, and I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to have to do away with some of the different things. But the next place you see it is in the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus, in the beginning of the book of Exodus, as all of you know the story, there was a baby born by the name of Moses, and the Pharaoh pronounced a death sentence on all the Hebrew babies. And so Noah's mother took him and put him in a basket. And again, we see the word pitch. And of course, pitch means quackamus stickamus, or is translated to quackus stickamus, where we get our word duct tape. And put him in this duct taped basket and floated him down the Nile, where the Pharaoh's daughter found him and raised him, and we all know the story. Noah led the people out of the wilderness into the promised land and got that close before Joshua took over. But at any rate, I was in Africa. I was in Egypt. This has been maybe 3 years ago. We're walking down the edge of the Nile River, just out in the, you could see pyramids from where we were at. I mean, it was a remote area. And I looked down and I found this. Yes, that's right, friends. It's a basket covered with duct tape. I believe that this is the basket that Moses floated down the Nile River. Again, we took our carbon dating machine that we invented and we checked it out. And the time period is there for this basket to be that old. And plus, again, and this is purely coincidental, and of course we know with God there's no coincidences. I think God intended me to find this so I could bring this revelation to you. And that is, we find on the bottom of the basket, his name is Moses. That's right. This was written by Moses' mother when she covered this basket with duct tape. Let me conclude with this. Duct tape was used many times in the New Testament as well. There's ample evidence to say that the thieves that were crucified with Jesus, one on one side, one on the other, were held up there by duct tape. When Paul was on his way to Damascus to persecute Christians, we find the word stickamus in there. When he was riding on his donkey, and he was stickamus on his donkey. The word stickamus, again, duct tape. We believe that it's very, very probable that Paul duct taped himself to that donkey. And that's why when he fell off of it, the donkey fell on top of him and cut off the circulation to his legs, and he went blind. There's an answer. There's an answer. So friends, in closing, let me say this. Don't ever discount what God can do in your life. And don't be surprised if he does it with duct tape. Thank you.